I don't like the way the BWE story is being covered in the media. Not necessarily how it's being covered in the media, but how it came to be covered in the media. Because what BWE did is almost the exact same thing as what a bunch of other companies did. The only difference between them and BWE, dare I say it, is that BWE had the balls to be honest about what he thought of his customers. When he revoked your access to the PlayStation repair software that you bought and paid for, he told you he thinks that you're an idiot. He thinks that you are huffing lead fumes and have brain damage. He told you, I don't like people from your country, so I'm revoking your access to my software. He was honest with you. And as a result of that, a lot of people looked into him and realized that he just so happened to have a history of being a sadistic, convicted pedophile that really enjoyed torturing underage girls, which, to be clear, is horrible, and he deserves to be cooked for all of that. However, what he's doing is almost the exact same thing as what many other companies do every day and get away with without there being mainstream media coverage. When Sony decides that they are going to revoke access to the stuff that people bought and paid for, and they send out this, you will no longer be able to watch any of your previously purchased Discovery content, and the content will be removed from your video library. We sincerely thank you for your continued support. And they do this based on a redefinition of the word ownership on page 21 of their fucking terms of service that says, use of the words own, ownership, purchase, sale, sold, or rent in this agreement does not mean or imply any transfer of ownership. Do you think that this company likes you? They think that you're an idiot. They think you're a moron. They think you're a dumbass. They think that you must be huffing lead fumes to believe this shit and be okay with it. But that's not what they tell you, because they hired a first-year PR student to write that bullshit so that it sounds nice. And Sony is not run by a pedophile. As a result, does it get the same news coverage? Is 60 Minutes in my inbox here? No, they're not. Look at a company called Tato. Tato creates a smart thermostat that has a bunch of interesting features in it. And they decided at one point that they weren't making enough money. And they think that their customers are pretty fucking stupid. So what they did is they had this put up here. And this was not written in a mean way like BWE. They took that conversation they're having in the boardroom. Are our customers so stupid that they have brain damage from huffing lead fumes that they'll be willing to pay more money for what they already paid for when they bought the product? I don't know. Let's figure out how stupid our customers are. No, they didn't say that out loud to you. They say that in the boardroom. They have a PR person write this. We'd like to inform you of an important change to our Tato app. Our goal is to provide you with the best possible app experience. Intuitive, reliable, and constantly improving. Unfortunately, we've been facing increased server rental and external data costs for some time. To continue offering you innovative features and top-notch service, we are introducing a fee of £1 per month per household for the Tato app starting May 1st, 2025. And then they had a bunch of forum posts talking about how this is just a test. And when they say test, what they actually mean is this was a fake paywall. So when it would ask you for your payment info, it wasn't taking your money. It was simply putting your name on a list of people they realized were stupid enough, in their terms, not mine, to be willing to pay for something again that you had already paid for. We have a company like Miku, who has a $400 baby monitor, who one day decided that $400 for the baby monitor wasn't enough. They now need to charge you a monthly fee for the features that you got when you bought your baby monitor. And they did not call you stupid. They did not say that you must be huffing too many lead fumes and have brain damage. They said this. They wrote you a nice little thing that sounds like it was coming from a first-year PR student. I could give you hundreds to thousands of examples that are all present in the Consumer Rights Wiki. Every company does this nowadays, not just BwE. Where's the news coverage for all of them? It's not there, because there's no clickbait value in talking about a thermostat brand testing people. Where's the widespread media coverage for all these other cases? Where's the 60 Minutes episode on the revocation of ownership in modern society? It's not there. When I report on all these other issues of companies doing the exact same thing that BwE did, I do not get 20 emails in my inbox from mainstream media outlets within 24 to 48 hours, because there's no clickbait value in this when the person behind it is not an evil, sadistic pedophile. But I think it should be covered just the same. And I'm afraid of the wrong message coming out from this BwE story. I'm afraid of the message being that once BwE is held accountable and responsible by his community and his government for the consumer rights violations on top of every other thing that he did, that we're done. We're done and dusted. We figured it out. Time to move on to something else. No. The issue of ownership and the eradication of ownership in our country is a large one. Whether we're talking about with military equipment, whether we're talking about the right to repair stuff I talk about here in this channel, or whether we're talking about any one of the issues in the hundreds to thousands of articles on consumerrights.wiki going over the revocation of ownership, how everything that you buy spies on you, how you don't really have control of what you bought and paid for anymore, how you buy a car and you install an app on your phone to get gas and you wind up with this bullshit where you're riding a fucking roller coaster at Kings Island and your insurance company thinks that you're a bad driver because of the way the roller coaster goes. You don't own what you bought and paid for. Access to what you bought and paid for can be revoked at any given time. Most of the things that you used to own now connect to somebody else's server, which gives them control over it. Not only gives them control over being able to spy on what you're doing with what you bought and paid for, but it also gives them the ability to revoke what you bought and paid for. This should be covered on a regular basis. And simply because you cooked one pedophile does not mean that's the end of the story. This is something that should be covered by mainstream media outlets on a regular basis, while there's still some small chance to fight back and get back the rights of ownership. I don't want people to think that we're done because you got one guy. I want you to care every time it happened, not just when it's a good clickbait story because it says, man convicted of torturing girls also revokes access to software. The real story here is not that he was a pedophile. The real story here is that the difference between BwE and Sony is that BwE, at the very least, is honest about what he thinks of his customers, whereas Sony and Discovery are not. This website is my new project. It's a very, very small portion of the new organization that I've started to try and get people to understand how their consumer rights are being violated, and more importantly, how you just don't own what you bought and paid for anymore. I'm trying to raise awareness of this issue so that we can try and push back against it. Right now, there are laws in the United States like Section 1201 of the DMCA that criminalize breaking digital locks on what people have bought and paid for, which I think is absolutely disgusting. These laws have been on the books for over 20 years, and these are laws that I think now is a better time than ever before to start fighting back and challenging. Because 20 to 30 years ago, you could kind of make the argument that you owned what you bought and paid for. In 2025, every single day, there's something cutting against that. This is a small part of that, and I need your help with this project. I don't believe in using this channel as a vehicle to sell ExpressVPN, Raycons, Audible, and all this other bullshit. I'm not here to sell you to advertisers. That's not what this channel has been about. That's not what this channel will ever be about. This channel has never had any sponsors, and it never will. And I'm not going to ask you to click on all that bullshit. But what I will ask you to do is help me do what I've been trying to do with this channel since I started over 13 years ago, which is help clean up my corner of the world. My corner of the world was running my small business, talking about right to repair, realizing that what I talked about with right to repair, not only does it apply to MacBooks and consumer electronics, but applied to military devices, applied to tractors, applied to medical equipment. And now that right to repair is this really teeny tiny small issue under the greater umbrella of right to own. How we don't own, we bought and paid for anymore. I want to try and get ownership back. And that means fighting it back on every single front. And one of those fronts is informing people on what's going on, so that when these journalists come to me and have these stories or want to learn about BwE, I want to be able to say, listen, BwE, fine, let's talk about BwE, but here's another 100 companies that did the exact same thing, and I'm going to do all your homework for you so that you don't have to look it up yourself. I'm going to have the citations here. We're going to have it in a nice little wiki format with the citations. It's going to have a neutral tone of voice, so it just doesn't sound like Lewis raging and screaming at people. If you want to look up an application like GasBuddy, you hear about the Arity scandal, all that stuff is right here. You got all the different lawsuits, the citations, the statutes, to make it very easy for a journalist who is not really well versed in this issue to be able to cover it. I want journalists to feel like they have all the tools that they need to be able to cover all these different ownership issues. When I talk about how there's a little dark pattern on Netflix and how it says you get 4K, but you don't actually get 4K unless you use a closed source platform that spies on you, I want to be able to point to an article that is perfect, that's well cited, that goes through every single little thing. And that's what I need all of your help for. Will you help me clean up my corner of the world? Will you help me turn this website into something amazing? Will you click on the little button in the upper left corner of the website and then go on to articles in need of work? Go through these articles, figure out how to make them work, and if you don't know how to be helpful, click on the homepage, go to find the official Discord here, click on the link, and chat with people that can help us help you. I need your help. I can't do this stuff on my own. I'm just a random dude screaming into a camera. I have a cat, and my cat is amazing, my cat is powerful, and my cat does give me special powers. But by ourselves, there's not much I can do. If we're going to take back ownership, it requires the help of all of you. Will you help me out? Make sure that people understand. When they hear about this BwE thing, it can't just be some hit and run. It can't just be some viral story. Oh, look, oh, we got him. Okay, never mind. Moving on to the next thing. I want this to be something where it's a hit and run, but it's planted to see it in people's minds. Yeah, we used to own what we bought and paid for. What happened to that? So that the next time this happens, they remember. Help me use this story as a means to plant a seed. That's it for today. And as always, I hope you learned something. I'll see you in the next video. Bye now.